Hello, everyone. I love this stage. You know why? Because it's called the collective. And everybody that is coming to Change Now year after year, why do we come? It's because it brings us so much hope. And we know that we need one another, right? That no one can achieve the change on its own. So this stage is about the collective, and we are about to demonstrate that we can make the shift happen together. And I'm very eager to introduce this session about the transforming role of business when it comes to value chain. This is what we believe an essential piece of the puzzle. Today, transforming value chain is not just an option, no. It has become a must, from upstream to downstream to more transparency also. But what is the reality? I don't know if you've seen the study from the WEF, interviewing 300 executives from operations from around the world. And what did they say? That we're not moving fast enough. Well, this we knew, right? But the reality is that 14% of the companies have really started to shift the supply chain according to tackle the scope 3. So today what we're going to do and what we will bring together is hope. Thoughtful leaders that are eager to shift purpose into practice, that will demonstrate to all of us that it is possible, because I believe it is possible, and we need to join forces. So to start this, let's draw inspiration on how business can be a force for good. And it's my absolutely pleasure to welcome on stage our keynote speaker, Lubomila Jordanova, the CEO of Plan A, who is an inspiration for all of us.
Today I want to talk about a misconception that is widely available across the economy. And that is actually, what is the value of a product? When you think about a product, you might think about sales, about marketing, you might think about materials. But let's be honest, neither sustainability nor decarbonization is part of the day-to-day planning of businesses. Maybe in the past. The product value chain of any physical product is actually incredibly complex. And we all know, to have a t-shirt that someone of you here is wearing, it takes a lot of incredibly complex steps that need to be aligned, that cost, and that require for a business to be mindful of how much do they spend against how much do they make. You have the materials, you have the distribution, the transportation. You have also the possibility to make money, but not always the same amount. These days, in an economic situation where not every single business is seeing the growth that they've been experiencing for the last few years, the question remains, is actually the value of a product what truly is well understood by the business leaders that we work with or we are? Well, what a business would hope for is that a value chain is stable. You calculate how much does it cost to have the materials, you calculate how much is the transportation, you calculate how much is every single step of the marketing journey of your business, and then you expect sales. Sales at the highest level of the margin, but sometimes sales at a discount, maybe sales that also leads to no sales, where products, like in the fashion industry, for example, quite significantly, sometimes even up until 50%, end up on the landfill because of overproduction. If a value chain is stable, the expectation of the business is that its revenue is stable. But the headlines today, anywhere you look across the world, confirm that the revenue is not to be predicted so easily these days. because all of us are interlinked. All of us contribute to the value chain in a different way, some with the materials, some with the marketing. And somehow, in an economic situation like the one we have now, the reality doesn't allow for this predictability. One thing, though, that we all know is that we have a crisis that has been predicting itself, thanks to the work of a lot of scientists, some of which are even here, extensively over the last few decades. Just over the last 40, 50 years, we have seen a few 100% increase in climate risk-related costs. These costs at the moment, you might feel, are not paid by us. You might feel that they're not paid by your business, and you might be thinking, oh, maybe I need to do some ESG reporting, and then I've ticked off the box of what my responsibility for this crisis is. However, when you dive into the data, which is what we do with my team extensively, you start seeing that this cost is actually distributed across the whole society. It's paid by governments when there's a flood. It's paid by businesses when a factory gets destroyed. It's paid by the individuals that maybe lose their house because of another natural disaster. What often is forgotten, though, is that we have other KPIs that supposedly maybe don't look at climate, but progressively are being affected by every single decision that we make that is in one way or another against the health of our planet. Another confirmation that has been extensively showing its face to us is the numbers about the emissions on this planet. According to the UN, we need to be reducing emissions at 7% on a yearly basis. Potentially not news to anyone that is sitting here, potentially news for people that are not here, that continue to contribute to a reality where we don't see anymore the reduction, but rather continuous increase. The only year when we actually had the decrease in the emissions happened during COVID, and it was exactly 7%. Governments are not silly. They know how to think about this challenge. And they have been extensively showing different ways in which they engage with the topic, be it through activation of alliances, be it through legislation. The legislation shift over the last few years has been wild for many businesses because they had to navigate realities where within one single report, certain corporates would have to put together a list of 1,100 KPIs. And when you think about that many KPIs, you're thinking, well, probably a business is thinking about this value chain in a bit of a concerned manner because they're wildly excited about growth in their revenue, but they all of a sudden need to think about becoming experts in bird migration or in energy efficiency. The beauty of the reality of this legislative shift is that there has been a lot of understanding of the value that science brings to the table. Regardless if you're not a sustainability expert, which many of us here are, there is an opportunity for anyone that is maybe misinformed or not informed to go into the data and start understanding that the depth of the success of their business is heavily dependent on the reality in which they understand that every single KPI associated to CO2 is actually their allowance to continue existing. Given the audience here, I probably wouldn't need to allow myself to explain what Scope 1, 2, and 3, but in a nutshell, what this mathematical model gives us is the opportunity for every single one of us to identify the business activities that we have in a translatable also for the financial world manner. And if we go into this financial world, actually we have another indicator that has been there to show us that we need to start thinking a bit more progressively about the correlation between money, growth, CO2, margins, sales, revenue. This is the global GDP as it has been looking for the last decade. Not a beautiful picture, isn't it? And if this is the growth that we want to be able to see in order to develop our projects, probably we're mixing up somewhere the equation, and some KPIs are missing in order for us to know how to enable the success, not only for ourselves, but also for the value chain participants that we work with, be it suppliers, be it the employees, be it the other stakeholders that matter to the existence of any economic contributor. So it becomes evident from this little mathematical equation that we did that financial KPIs without the contribution of non-financial KPIs are not allowing us to really be truly aligned to the success that we want to see in this world and in this economy. However, while I can be maybe convincing, hopefully, of why this matters, maybe it is useful to go into every single one of the steps of this challenge to the economy and understand where the problem truly is. For the last 7 years, with my company Plan A, we've been studying legislation, we've been studying science, we've built a scientific team, we've also built a decarbonization team, as well as also extensive relationships with more than 1,500 clients, who came to us with a simple request, which was, how do we stay relevant to an economy that is shifting, in a legislative reality that is confusing, in a setup where a complex value chain is heavily dependent on third parties that are even outside of our scope? And when we did the analysis, not for some of them, but more on a general level for how the economy would look, we now have legislation or actual challenges associated to access to raw materials. We have emission penalties for the transportation that businesses have. We have legislation that is coming for how you are becoming more sustainable. And even 2 weeks ago, France announced that there will be financial penalties for ultra-fast fashion companies because this is somehow becoming a burden to an economy that is shifting. What does this mean back to the topic of revenue? At the end of the day, it might sound a little bit cynical. We all need to be understanding that the reason why many businesses have become big is because they found a way to make the equation of how much money am I spending on these raw materials versus how much my marketing is going to help me to be able to sell. In today's reality, and combined with the statistic that I mentioned of overproduction, we're looking into an equation that finishes with a question mark. And it is only for the businesses that decide to actually be at the forefront of the shift to decarbonize, to be on top of the legislation, the allowance to exist will be true. How does an industry stay relevant? Out of all of the companies that we're working with, and these are companies of the likes of Chloe, BMW, Gani, even the European Commission, we have understood that there's several key factors for an industry and for a business within this industry to stay relevant. If you want to be able to keep your employees happy, start working on sustainability. If you want to see growth in revenue, also start working on sustainability, or add it to your vision and to the work that you're doing with the different projects that you manage. What is probably the most important revelation we've gathered from working with all these different businesses has been that CO2 is actually money, and this is a KPI that, if not in the back of the mind of a board member, a C-level, it might conflict them in the next steps of the growth that they're anticipating. When we looked into these 1,500 companies over the last few years, what we have seen, there's actual steps that businesses need to take in order to understand their part, their status quo, also the stage at which their business is at the moment in the context of sustainability. It is about team awareness. It is about becoming literate in terms of the calculations that you need to do. It is about understanding who from your suppliers is actually requiring education in order to become more sustainable and fastly support you on this net zero goal that you've set for yourself, and maybe has been set even by your investor. And it is also about the ecosystem approach that one takes, where a business might decide to be at the forefront of the shift, but they are never going to be able to do it by themselves because every single stakeholder matters. When I found Plan A in 2016, I found myself in a bit of a special situation where sustainability was a topic sometimes banned by the discussion, sometimes a bit of it unavailable because the education level of people was different. Since then, we've made the big decision to actually go inside these value chains, inside these stakeholder engagement discussions, in order to allow businesses like BMW and the logos that you see here to understand how by becoming more sustainable, they can save money, they can make more money, but it comes at the cost of the action that they take to engage their board, their employees, and also every single stakeholder that matters to the existence of their business. Even the logistics partner that you might not know yet doesn't understand CO2, doesn't understand scope 1, 2, and 3. What has been most exciting is that we're starting to see the results. And for these big numbers of 1,500, I've decided to take 3 examples that have been, in my view, incredibly impressive because they've given us a lot of comfort that even in a complex environment where we might be considering certain industries slow, there's actually a lot of action that is being taken. KFC is one of our clients, and they were using spreadsheets. These spreadsheets were a lot, and there was a lot of data hidden in them. What we ended up doing was actually supporting them to digitize their experience and also being able to create a community of climate leaders within their company in the hundreds that are pushing for the decarbonization legislation to be implemented on behalf of the company. Another example that I always pride myself on, because I'm never going to forget actually the sales call that I had with Lauren, that is the Chief Sustainability Officer of Ghani, when we were 3-5 people in the company. She said at the end, when they decided to start working with us, she was like, "You're the only company that is actually talking about insetting. You're the only company that is talking about decarbonization, not just compensation." What they've done since, beyond the fact that they've assessed their emissions and they've looked into their value chain, they've started supporting even financially their suppliers to switch their energy so that they become more sustainable and ultimately for the emissions in scope 3 to be reduced, is that they've started innovating. This jacket that you see here is actually made out of kombucha bacteria. It took 10 years for the material to be developed, and now this jacket not only exists, but it's also cool. Another thing that they did was actually start using mushrooms. They have their own lab, Materials of the Future, where they're looking into how they can utilize nature, but in a mindful for nature manner, to be able to essentially build products that are exciting for the audiences, but are also good for the planet. And a final example that I pride myself extensively on, as we've been working with them again since we were 3-4 people in the company, is BMW. BMW last year came to us with a challenge, which was build us a product that is going to be able to give us the chance to decarbonize the fleets of our corporate clients. This product is now in 11 different markets, in 11 different languages, and is ultimately allowing for people that are using already the BMW platform to go in and not only see what kind of cars they have, but also be able to see what are the CO2 emissions, download an ESG report, and also start seeing what kind of cars they need to switch to in order to reduce their own emissions and ultimately reduce the emissions of their companies, which, as we know, depending on where the fleet is sitting, either scope 1, 2, or 3. The biggest learning that I've gathered over these years of working on Plan A has been the fact that we might be a group here of people that meet each other on a yearly basis, but the truth is we have the day after ChangeNOW, where we need to go back to our day-to-day activities and be excited about a world that is shifting a little bit faster, that is moving a little bit faster. And especially with the statistics that have been coming up in the last few years, I think it is of utmost importance for us to understand that not a single day is anymore allowed for us to actually don't identify ourselves as the change makers that are required for this planet, but also for this economy to continue to exist. Thank you.
Come out this way, so I was like, where is she? Thank you so much. Now we're going to move into the panel session. So after this keynote speech, let me introduce you to an amazing speaker. Because you know that reinventing the way we manage business and the value chain is not so easy, right? Change is never easy. Shifting from a more regulatory constraints to sustainability as a competitive edge, or shifting from a cost-driven to a value creation, where consumers are really playing a critical role. This is not so easy. But fear not, today we are joined by amazing frontrunners from corporate. And let me warmly introduce you to Ulrike Sapiro. Please join me on stage. From Henkel. John McCalla from KPMG. And Cathy Pieters from Mondelez International. Thank you so much. So we have heard so many amazing news from the different panels. What matters to me today is to make sure that we go deeper and to understand, as you are amazing leaders, what matters to you as individuals also. So maybe, Cathy, can we start with you about why transforming really the value chain is counting really for Mondelez and for yourself?
Yeah, sure, thank you. I'll start with myself. I'm a mom of 3 girls, grown-up girls. And the moment my oldest one, 27 now, was born, I had an urgency, like, oh, I'm putting this little human being on this earth. I need to make sure that I contribute to making sure that it's a good place for them. So that was a little bit of a eye-opening. And then the 2 others came, so it became even more urgent. And in the meantime, guess what? I'm also the VP for Sustainable Ingredients at Mondelez, which is a nice, I think I did what I thought I was going to do, so that's good. Mondelez, just a quick word about what we do. So you probably know our iconic global and local brands that are available.
Maybe you can share a few of the brands. So.
I can, yes. Lu, Oreo, which one's Cadbury, Milka, my favorite, Côte d'Or, best chocolate in the world. I live in Switzerland, which is always a challenge when you're from Belgium. But yeah, all of these products are available in about 150 countries across the world. Actually, in France, I think we are present in 9 out of 10 households with our products, so that's fabulous. 90,000 people across the world are working at Mondelez. And that is nice. So, quickly, our purpose, our mission, is to really go drive the future of snacking. And we want to be doing that by making the right snack for the right moment. Sorry, I thought you were going to ask me something. And making sure it's produced in the right way. That's a little bit like our mission. We want to make sure that we can contribute to the future snacking.
You did shift some part of your strategy where sustainability became core in some ways, right?
Absolutely. Well, it's not new at all. I mean, we've been doing this for quite a while, but it is true that sustainability is one of our 4 strategic pillars of our growth strategy, which is not a small thing. It means that the company really has it front and center there's only 4 pillars in our growth strategy, and sustainability is part of that. But I think we've been doing this for a long time, pioneering even here in France. If you think about Harmony, wheat and cocoa are 2 of our big ingredients. And in 2008, we actually launched the Harmony program here in France, now in 7 countries, and almost sourcing or producing 400,000 tons of Harmony wheat a year. Harmony is all looking at regenerative practices. We just launched last year the new Harmony Ambition 2030, which is even more focusing on regen ag, with a big focus on biodiversity and, of course, climate carbon.
Thank you, Cathy. Maybe to look at also another practices in your company, what does it really take to transform the value chain, and why does it matter to you as a company?
Thank you, Isabelle. Hello, everyone. I mean, first thing perhaps about Henkel is very brief. Do not eat it. Whatever you buy from Henkel, do not eat it. So opposed us to what Cathy just made us, give us. Henkel products are either consumer products in the personal care, so a lot of hair products, or consumer and household products, or...
A few brands, maybe?
A few brands. I mean, Persil, perhaps laundry products, Schwarzkopf, hair, Taft and Sios, so a lot of hair and personal care products on that side. But the other half of the business is adhesives technology solutions into a wide variety of other sectors. So anything you can think is glued, in a nutshell, from your shoes to your T-shirts, to your phones, to your cars, planes, etc., might have Henkel adhesives in. So none of that is edible, but everything is really fantastic stuff. But to your question about why does the value chain matter, and to us in particular, and here in particular, it's because we need to drive action where impact is. And very clearly, if you look at what the Greenhouse Gas Protocol gives us as a standard for accounting greenhouse gases, and what SBTi gives us as a standard for putting targets to net zero against it, it's very clearly giving us a map of where the impact is. And it is not in our own operations. Of course, it's part of that, right? What we ourselves are using and consuming and in running our products and our production. But really 90+% is in the value chain, and in particular in the upstream value chain. So of course, this action starts with us, how we are reformulating our products, how we make them smaller, how we design packaging, how we are changing the ingredients that go into them. But ultimately, it has the ripple effect in the value chain, particularly in the raw materials that we buy, and that's where the real impact is, and that's why that is such an important part of what we do.
Concentrating your efforts where it matters most. One? Yeah.
Can I start, maybe? Maybe I'll continue off, Ulrike, what you mentioned. So I'm John McCalla-Leacy, Global Head of ESG at KPMG. We have just under 300,000 employees around the world. We work with the biggest companies around the world. So I am responsible I have climate teams, nature, biodiversity teams, human rights. I've got some pretty cool teams. I've also got a team of divers that audit in, kelp in the sea forest. I've got a team of drone pilots in Canada who are actually doing some work around deforestation. But really, we work with the largest companies to provide not only reporting support, assurance support, but most importantly, in driving that transition and driving that transformation. And actually, Ulrike, you said it perfectly in terms of why is it important. It's important to us because it's important to our clients, with many of our clients, exactly as you mentioned, reporting over 90% of the emissions in scope in their supply chain. But also, and I would add to that, when you look from a materiality, from a risk perspective, much more broader than greenhouse gas emissions, but whether this be in terms of human rights risks, things like child labor, modern day slavery, again, they see that some of those risks are there. So it's really important to focus on this. Really briefly for myself, and we had a discussion beforehand, I have a really strange background, very strange. I spoke over there just yesterday. I'm a former athlete. I studied fashion design, went in specialised in knitwear design in United Colours of Benetton. I retrained in technology about 30 years ago. I've been in KPMG for nearly 24 years. I was the first black board member to serve in KPMG in the board in the UK, and I find myself in this position now where I can actually influence and drive change. Now, why does all of that background matter? It matters because we need those diverse perspectives when we look through our value chains. We need people who are designers, who are engineers, who are auditors, who are project managers, and so on. And I'll maybe just leave you with this in terms of why it matters for me personally. When you see some of the catastrophic events around the world, whether this be in the social events, the murder of George Floyd, whether it be the fact that last year, hottest on record, there's so much that needs to happen. And my wife challenged me on this, said, you know, you need to do more. If not you, then who? And if not now, then when? And that is a challenge to all of us.
Yes, that's a good one. So maybe as we all here are convinced that it is absolutely needed to transform the value chain, I think that what would be helpful for every one of us is to understand what are the obstacles you overcome. How did you make the shift happen to shift from words into action?
Very good question. Words into action. I think very often we start with, I think it's an important beginning to start with the purpose of who you are as a person, of course, and we hear a lot about that. And John, thank you for sharing your story, but also as companies. And of course, purpose of companies is getting, at the moment, quite a bad rap about being, you know, just pretentious and what is it all about. But I think at the end of the day, and I think Lubomila showed it, in order to actually unite your workforce, your long-term vision of where you want to be as a business, a purpose is absolutely important. And it needs to be connected really with your strategy. Yeah? How are you measuring success? How do you think performance is going to look like in your organization? And in Henkel, for example, I mean, we have the benefit of being still a very largely part a family company, but we're also publicly listed, so we have the best, of course, of both worlds. But our purpose is to be pioneers at heart for the good of generation. Yeah? So the sustainability, the longevity is already built in, but that's not enough because that would only be words. Putting it into our strategy as a business, say, how are we measuring success, where sustainability is at the center, really named at the center, between innovation and digitalization, is really giving it the place to hold ourselves accountable.
Can you share with us some examples about how you made it happen?
Yeah, absolutely. So one big example is, of course, I just mentioned, it is the buck starts with us, right? How we are formulating, designing our products, our packaging. So innovation in that space is the starting point for sustainable value chains and for driving that impact. And that means compacting products, reducing the size, shifting from powder to liquid, shifting supply chains, really understanding supply chains, which is where I get from innovation to digitalization, because that's, for me, is the biggest enabler for moving from words to action, is data. Is data not in the sense of just having a salad of numbers, but having real information and insights into your value chain, into your supply chain, to drive business decisions.
And what did you decide based on data? What is the decision that made you shift? Can you share with us some example?
Yeah, a number. I mean, the first one was, you know, you sit there and you say, look, our data doesn't feel right. You know, we don't have it fast enough and it's not correct enough. Why don't we just buy a software tool to fix it, to make it faster? And we implement software tools to make it faster, and what comes out is not actually better data. It actually is just more swirl of funny stuff. And that's where you really start digging and look at your governance, at your data systems, at your processes. You really go into the inner belly of your organization and have to start fixing that. So it's super challenging, but it's the right way to go to really understand where your carbon footprint, your luggage of your product is coming from, getting external help as well, but it is real commitment to go to that space. And again, there were many opportunities at that point to give up. But going back to, you know, the conversation we're having here, is that really pioneers at heart? Yeah? Is that really pioneering? Was a checkpoint for us in many conversations to say, no, really, we need to go that step further, even if it's painful. So that's where purpose and strategy and action are actually coming alive.
Okay, we'll go back to the action. Maybe, John, you can share what you have seen in the world with your clients about how do you make, and which obstacles did you overcome And
Yeah.
I would like for you to share one example that you can share and,
Sure.
so we can learn from.
Yeah, so first of all, words matter. And really what matters are the right words in the right context and with the right individual. And I talk a lot about the importance as change makers, as CSOs, as being bilingual, quadlingual, trilingual. So you've been able to speak to the right people in the right context. And here's a challenge I often issue to people. If you're speaking to a C-suite individual, do so without using the term ESG, sustainability, transformation, or change. Don't use it. When you speak to a CFO, I like to talk about EBITDA improvements, because that's what they understand. And I'll give you an example. I was at an event not so long ago whereby we were able to show that through an internal project, we'll not only be able to show it was 10 by 10, so it was a 10% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions, whilst also a 10% improvement in EBITDA, in profit. If you're speaking to the CIO, I talk about assets and how you can extend the life of the assets, or how you can reduce compute power. If you speak to the CRO, you talk about risk, whether this be physical risk or transition risk. So it's really important that we, because as sustainability experts, we talk in our own language, right? We talk about ISSB, CSRD, UDR, you know, and we get lost in that, but we have to translate that. So words are really important. And the last piece I'll reference really quickly is accountabilities. Being really specific with those who can drive change, ideally linked to remuneration, and also with short-term specific goals. So the example was the EBITDA improvement as well.
But the points you're raising, John, is that it has become everyone's business. It's not just the CSO responsibility, it's everyone's accountability. Thank you. And Cathy, maybe?
I'm happy to jump on that, because that was exactly the point I wanted to make on the why question. I love the why question, because it's so important as a company to understand and to all be aligned on why are we doing this. And I think it's important, we've really understood that our CEO is obsessed with sustained growth. We're a growth company and we shouldn't be shy about that, it's good. But we want to see sustained growth. And we cannot have that on a weak supply chain or a challenged supply chain. So that's when you need to start understanding what is happening in your supply chain. And so Paul Pullman will be really happy to know that we go deep into our scope 3 and all the way up to the field to understand what's happening.
And did you, based on this, the fact that also sustainability was your fourth pillar of your strategy, did it shift also the way your decisions were made also?
Yeah, it's a journey. Let me say that. It is a journey, but it's true that having it up there, nobody can hide. It's everyone's business. I think someone said that. But it's genuinely true. And for me, that's one of the, how you get over an obstacle. Because, you know, even if you are a finance person, you need to make sure that you plan for the investment in the right way, that you allocate in the right way. We have more than 15 business units who all have their P&Ls, and we have global sustainability commitments and goals, which is complicated.
How do you manage that?
Well, all of these business units now have a clear person responsible for sustainability with a steerco and clear accountability, to your point, on what they all need to deliver so that we all together reach the global goal. So that's all leading, the fact that it's front and center in our strategy is driving that. So that's an important one. But I wanted to add a few things. You were mentioning the speech, and I would say, yes, simplify the complexity. What we do is complex, and it's okay that the sausage making is complex, but you're right. If I go to a board meeting or an MLT, a leadership team meeting, and use my normal vocabulary, they get bored after 2 minutes and they don't take ownership of the topic because I don't get it. And please don't ask me to talk about it. So simplification, I would say, is one of the big things that is important. And then I talked about the why. Just to give you a little example, we actually took our CEO to the field in our cocoa supply chain, just to make it a little concrete. Because he's our CEO, he flies on a private jet and lives, you know, in a different world. So he needs to understand that what's happening in a day-to-day life of the men and women who grow the cocoa that we use in our supply chain. So he actually spent time talking, spending a whole afternoon in Ghana. Then we went to Côte d'Ivoire. And he came back. It's not going to be easy, Cathy. No, it is not going to be easy, but we also don't have to do it alone. So that's the other point I would like to say. When you want to overcome obstacles, it's quickly daunting and it's very overwhelming sometimes. The challenges, I feel, especially in ingredients, because some of the supply chains are really very challenged. And if you look at it as a whole, you can get a little scared about all of that. So when that happens to me, I always think back to, we don't have to do that alone. We're not alone. We should collaborate, not only with our peers, which we do a lot of, but also, with the governments on the ground, with all the actors who take a piece of the value chain.
Yes, it's
we
part
should
of
be
what
collaborating.
we do today is collaborating, learning from one another. And the fact that you stated also bringing your CEO to the field, looking at the programs, meeting people, the stakeholders around it is absolutely critical. So maybe one last question to each of you is, on a scale of 1 to 10, how hopeful are you in our collective ability to drive this transformation at the speed and the scale that the world needs?
Do I start? Well, the first half of the sentence, I would have said, yes, I'm a 10. At the speed and the scale, I'm sort of a bit more modest about it. But at the end of the day, again, I'm also mother of children, but I look at other young children, I think we just don't have a choice. We have the responsibility, we have the urgency, we have to keep pushing. But I think more importantly, is it that we know what we're pushing for and how we're doing it? I think for me, the two big challenges that we have to do is we have to keep an eye on making that transformation, a transition, the next 10 years in particular, fairer, socially more equitable, because otherwise it's not going to work. We see it happening around us. And secondly, we must move a little bit away from only focusing on risks and urgency and more into opportunities and optimism. I think this is what this event is most about. It's about this optimism. I think we need to capture, bottle that, and take it outside, because I think we need to show a vision of a positive future, not just it's the risk. That will win us actually over, and I think these are the two ingredients I'll take away certainly to be moving forward.
This is what we were sharing before when we were preparing the session, is how much hope and energy and optimism and good vibes Change Now was about, so it also feels good.
I actually didn't know Ulrike was going to say 10, but I'm going to say 10 also. Not because I'm copying, because I really believe this. And optimism is so incredibly important. It's so incredibly important for us all to embrace and to take hold of hope. And when the reason why I say take hold is it's a continuous thing. We have difficult challenges to work through, but we need to continue to hold on to it. They're incredible. When you consider the words of "I had a dream," you guys all know this, right? It is really helping to coalesce change makers around the world around something which is better than where we are, but then also to propel us towards that through engineering, through investments, just through the sheer will of mankind. So that hope is important. And then the last piece I would say is, because when we talked about this before, I talked about the timeline is really important. So when I connect to 2050, my daughter will be 42 in 2050. And when I look at the next generation coming through, they are so well informed. They're so well educated, and they are hungry for change, and they have no patience, zero patience. So I think what we need to do is, as much as we can, to move things forwards as fast as we can, and then to pass the baton forward. So I'm a 10.
And invite the next generation at the table, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yes, the next generation of young boys and girls, because we need that diversity as well. Thank you for having us. Hope. I'm not sure that I like the word hope, but I would say, am I confident? Yes, I'm 100% confident in the ability of jointly transforming, like the collective. As soon as we try to isolate ourselves and try to cover our backs and do something on our own, I'm a little less confident. As long as we work together, as we collaborate, as we understand our supply chains, and I'm very confident that we will get to a place where everybody, I'm a little obsessed with that, everybody, all the actors who get a value out of the value chain have a role to play in helping transform it into a positive one. And I'm confident that that is happening. A little bit going back, I was looking earlier, I was watching which one should I choose. So I'm definitely going to take the altogether one, or go back to an old African proverb that you probably all know by now. But if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together.
Thank you so much. Thank you to each of you. And mine will be with actions come hope. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for these incredible thought leaders that are sharing with us what they do at the forefront. And, you know, there are elements that brings us a lot of hopes and also very pragmatic things like bringing your CEO to the field, make sure that he gets on the ground or she gets on the ground and meet people that are hands-on in the projects. So now we are moving into the last panel, because it has become very clear to us that we need to reinvent the way we do business. Nevertheless, this is not so easy as we said at the beginning. And the future will be circular. Many of us have discussion around that, are trying things, are moving forward. But what if products, materials, and resources were kept in use for as long as possible? You know, what if strategies of recycling, reusing, remanufacturers were stretched to the max? Ellen MacArthur Foundation, I don't know if you know this number, estimate that the circular economy would generate $4.5 trillion in economic benefits by 2030, including cost savings and many things. So it's an economy itself. So our next panelists will be absolutely insiders to help us understand and showcase the possibilities of the circular economy and how we can reconcile actually the traditional model and the future model. Please welcome to the great leaders, Jean-Philippe Bahuaud, CEO of The Future is Neutral. Welcome. And Pierre-Olivier Brial from Manutan. Thank you. Thank you for being here. And maybe we can start. I don't know if everybody went to your booth. I think it was over here, right? This way, this direction. Way. Quite impressive. I encourage every one of you to go into this direction afterwards because I've learned a lot by joining it. So maybe you can share with us what is exactly your vision and your purpose in The Future is Neutral, because the name of your company is not just, it's so iconic.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Isabelle. And good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I'm very pleased to see how many people are actually joining this kind of conversations, because it's growing year after year. So it means that there is a growing interest in those issues. Very briefly, you know, The Future is Neutral is it's an enterprise, probably the first enterprise in the automotive space, because we work in the environment of the automotive industry. It's the first enterprise in the automotive space that is able to provide a bit of solutions in the field of circular economy for every step of the life cycle of a vehicle, from the conception of the vehicle to the fabrication, the production of the vehicle, the usage, and the end of life. How do we do that? In short, we partner with different entities. So we have companies operating which are already up and running, which generated roughly 900 million euros worth of turnover last year, just to give you an order of magnitude of the activity.
So it's possible.
So yes, it's possible, definitely. and through partnerships. We need to combine the world of automotive and waste management to find the solutions that are necessary for the OEMs to meet their regulatory obligations, their competitiveness, and to move forward in the field of environmental concerns.
Thank you. Very impressive, by the way. So Pierre-Olivier, please share with us also, because I believe that in Manutan you are moving from a traditional model to a more circular model. So how do you combine both, and how do you make the shift happen? Because it's not so easy to combine both models.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. So yes, in Manutan, we are a distributor. So in fact, we are a €1 billion company, and we are selling basically everything you see in this room. So we are selling racking for warehouse, we are selling industrial supplies, we are selling chairs, we are selling office furniture. So as a distributor, our impact on the planet is a scope 3. This is basically the product we are selling is much more important than our own electricity. So if we want to make a transformation, we need progressively to sell refurbished product. So I will say stop selling new products. It won't happen overnight, but progressively start selling refurbished products. I come in an industry, and I will tell you something very crazy. Only 4% of the office furniture are put back on the market, refurbished. So 96% either are thrown away or recycled. We think that 60% could be refurbished and put back on the market. And in Manutan, we are selling hundreds of thousands of products, and we believe that around 50 to 60% of what we sell could tomorrow be refurbished, could become second-hand products. So we are really moving toward this circularity model.
And what is the size today, just to give us an intention? What is the size of the second-hand products in your activity?
Well, it's very new. Basically, it's very new because we have started just a few months ago.
Okay.
And we have opened a circular hub. So we are the first in the industry to now take the product, buy back the product, put them in the hub, refurbish the product, and sell used product to our customers.
And what is your ambition there?
Well, the ambition first is to learn, because that's very new. And I think if I take the example of cars, circular economy is like a concept car. Everybody loves it, everybody wants it, but when it comes to actually purchase used furniture, then you encounter a lot of hurdles along the way. And we need to learn, because the concept is very easy, but then you have the question, okay, but I'm buying that, what are the warranty? Oh, I like these colors, can you guarantee this color for 10 years? Well, in fact, no. Okay, I'd like to make a tender on circular products, can you show me the product? No, because you will sell you what we have. So in fact, you encounter a lot of new questions on the supply chain, and we need to learn step by step, and we have opened this hub right now that is operational to learn with our customers and with our suppliers how we can really reinvent the whole supply chain and then the whole economy of today office furniture, tomorrow warehouse furniture, racking, shelving, and all those very sexy products.
It's definitely a learning journey. So please tell us how you said at the beginning in the introduction that it was all about partnership. Who do you partner with, and how does it work really? Can you share with us?
Yeah, sure. So first of all, I think it's important to remember that those partnerships are actually the result of a few years of experience in the field, because the companies that we operate have been actually operating since, some of them 10 years, 15 years, some others 70 years. So we didn't start 70 years, absolutely. The reconditioning of parts is something in the activity of the automotive industry which has been running for 70 years. By reconditioning, by the way, what I mean is taking an old engine, an old gearbox, an old turbo booster, and to make it new by reusing roughly 80% of old materials.
Okay.
So today, actually 3 days ago, we launched an offering in the electric space, being the first to offer reconditioned parts on the batteries. So the electric batteries of the Zoes, for example, the Twingos, and so on. The reconditioning of the engine, and all those reconditioned parts are roughly 30% cheaper than the new one.
Okay.
But they are as good as the new ones. And all of that is the result of 70 years of experience of reverse logistics and backward engineering, and making sure that basically the product is new. How do we partner? Why partnership is important in that journey? It's important because in the field of automotive, the problems to solve are at a significantly large scale. And in order to provide solutions which are competitive, there needs to be a certain level of scale. And how do we achieve scale when, you know, the engines, the gearboxes, the turbos are located a bit everywhere, you know, in the country or in Europe? It's by partnering with the companies that are helping us to understand how to create the networks, how to be efficient in the collection, how to be efficient in the distribution. And unless we have the right partners, and we work extensively, for example, with Suez, cooperating some of the companies that we own, unless we have that, we're not able to provide, you know, competitive products.
So to move the needle, you really partner on the field with the people that are recycling, reusing, etc. What about the partner with the automotive industry? Is it about what is, you know, what brings you scale? Is it about partnering with a key automotive brand, or is it about moving into markets, geographical markets that are more front runners than others? Can you tell us more about it?
Sure. I think it's a bit of both, but really we are targeting any type of problems that the automotive industry in Europe may have, whether they are coming from suppliers, from car makers, or individuals. You know, individuals like you and me, potentially we own a car and we don't know how to get rid of that car in a way that is respectful of the environment or that is, you know, enabling the network to operate efficiently. We have a solution for that. It's called the Goodbye Car, but it's something that we have operated. But bringing that to a level which is at scale, which is big enough for the automotive industry, requires our company to serve not only Renault Group or Stellantis or Volkswagen, but most of those car makers. I'll give you a very quick number, an example. We run a company together with Suez called Buncomenor, which is a company that basically collects the scraps from steel when they are under the production lines of car makers. So whenever you do, you know, a door in a car, there is the space for the window. And unless you have scrap of steel, you would have, you know, a door with, you know, a black window. So that wouldn't work. So there are companies like Buncomenor that are able to recollect all that scrap and to put it back on the market so that it comes back in the form of recycled steel in the cars. And today, 85% of a car is recyclable. Up to 30% of recycled materials can be introduced in a car. And our focus, our goal is to make that grow to 35, 40, 45, 50, and so on and so forth.
Thank you. And while we were preparing the panel, I remember very well the discussion is that it's all about learning, you know, learning journey. And what is exactly the role that you give to your customers? And how can they help you on this journey, or how can you help one another?
But in fact, maybe if I go back to my example, so again, only 4% of the office desk or the chairs are refurbished, where we could go to 60%. So the question is why? Because this is so simple. It's so common sense that why is it the case? Because circular economy has to become an industry. It has to go to the industrial scale. It has to get out of something nice, something good to do, to a real industry. So first, we believe that it is our mission in Manutan, as a distributor, not to wait for things to change, but to say, let's be the change. So we invest money, we are creating this circular hub, and we say we are going to partner with our suppliers, because we need spare parts, we need to reinvent the supply chains, and we also need to partner with our customers. So what we expect to our customers is to be pioneer. So today we are really talking a lot to our customers, saying we need to learn with you. Because what we offer is different than what you will traditionally see. Again, we might not be able, if you want 25 like this, we might have 20. So you might need to accept that you will have 5 which are new, because we don't have 25. So we need customers to understand that. And we also believe that, if I may say that, we need to make circular economy sexy. In a sense that we need to get out of, this is used so it's cheap, to, well, this is modern, this is smart, This is good for the planet. This is good, socially good, because in our circular hub, we have people in insertion. So we have to, and it's nice. And these are nice products. And even it's nice to have different colors. So how do you transform constraints into something that becomes trendy, smart? And this is what we expect for our customers. And we expect to find pioneers. We say, OK, great. I'm going to play the game with you. And I'm going to open this new activity. But we also need our suppliers. Because as you say, it's a revolution of the value chain. And we, our distributor, we are connecting people. We are connecting products with users. And our job is to connect suppliers, customers, also partners that are going to help us to learn how to refurbish, économie sociale et solidaire, because we want to work with them. So we want to be an integrator of a whole value chain to really recreate an industry. And in the end, that we stop saying, oh, but why 96%? It is so evident. Problem is that it's not because it's evident that it's simple.
For sure, it's a complex journey. Maybe, as you say, it's a learning journey with your peers, with suppliers, with customers. Maybe you can share, Pierre-Olivier, one thing that you have learned along this way.
One thing that we have learned is that, again, I think that when you start this journey, you can spend hours, make simulation, but it only started when we have opened the hub. So I just use a very simple example. When you buy bike products, obviously, the quality of the products will be very important. So you have A product, which are really new, and you can resell them. You have B product that need a little bit of touch-up and a little bit of paint. You have C products, you can use the spare part, and you have D. So you can make a lot of simulation, but until you have opened your hub, you are purchasing products, and you say, basically, I thought I will have 20% A, but I only have 5% A. You need to change the model. So I think you need to start, think big, because we are really doing it on a very professional point of view, but accept that it will be a journey. And it reminds me a little bit when I started in Manutan 20 years ago, it was internet. Everybody was talking about internet. We need to go internet, but there was no business model. Companies were saying, yeah, I want to buy online, but they had a lot of issues, and we learned. And now, if we hadn't done that, we will have disappeared as a business. So our belief, I don't know how much money we're going to make with it. I don't know how percentage of the products it will represent, but what I know is that the next generation will say, oh, we are really grateful you've done that, Manutan. If not, we won't be there developing the business.
Very clear. Just go for it, think big, and learn along the way. Maybe one learning from you, and having also willing to shift the way the industry operates. You're playing a specific role in there.
Yeah. If I may, I have two. so the key takeaway that comes to mind is the following. Circular economy, I couldn't agree more with what has been said on stage before. It's very complex. We need to simplify. We need to make it simple. We need to make it simple when we talk about it. We need to make it simple when we explain what we do. We need to make it simple when we explain what we want to achieve. And you know, it's not very easy to grasp a concept that is a loop. You know, where does it start? Where does it end? How many people need to work on that? It's super complicated. So simplifying, that's the key takeaway. The second takeaway is everything has to work together. So there is no circular economy solution, in my experience, that works if it is not a little bit profitable. And why? Because it has to be sustainable on the longer run. And to be sustainable on the longer run, it has to be adopted by some of the companies that we're designing solutions for. But it cannot be profitable if there is not a key part of, operational excellency. It cannot work if there is not the element of material sovereignty in Europe, for example, for our customers. It cannot work if, in terms of sustainability and reporting capabilities, everything is not perfectly aligned. And all of those bricks of the wall are equally important to make the solution work. So, key message is, yes, it can work. There are solutions. It's extremely complex. We need to simplify. It's our duty to make it simple, to make it clear, to make it crystal clear for our stakeholders. And we need to be able to reconcile, to wrap up some of the key elements of activities, whether it's from an environmental perspective or from an economical perspective, all into the activities that we develop.
And beyond your own business, but it's also true for this interaction, if you had the chance to move around in your booth with your people coming to your booth or others, what gives you hope in our collective ability to move towards a circular economy?
What gives me hope is that there is no choice. Now, in a sense that, again, I think that we know all the limits that we are reaching. We know it's good. So again, it's working. As you say, it's complex, but it's working. So I see no other options. And I think that we are in a period like when entrepreneurs, they want to do it. Investors, they want to do it. We need the government to understand that they need to create the condition to make it become an industry. And I think we need everyone to understand it is an industry. Circular economy is an industry. It is something professional. It requires a lot of skills. So I think we are in this moment where what makes a success is entrepreneurs, money, and the state. Entrepreneurs are there, money is there. States need to understand that it's not recycling. It's a little bit different. And they need to create the condition so that in B2B, it's more interesting to buy a refurbished product. So maybe play around with the taxes, understand that it's a question also of remade, meaning that we have hard time to reindustrialize because it's very hard to ask industry to come back, but we have reindustrialization right now.
It's very clear to action, and there are
Just
many politicians that are joining us at ChangeNOW, so I think your point was very clear. Thank you.
My hope, what gives me hope, very two basic elements, but which are at the core of what we do. First is to see how motivated the teams of a company is. That's insane. I mean, the motivation to come to work and to solve some of the biggest problems by putting everything into action and seeing, the fire in the eyes, trying to resolve those issues in the eyes of my employees and co-workers is absolutely fascinating. So that, I think, is one definitely a main source of hope. Second, it's the innovation. I don't know how many innovators we may have today in the room, probably hundreds, in ChangeNOW, it's innovation at the door, at the corner, everywhere. We see people working and finding solutions which are absolutely necessary, and the innovation fields are tremendous. Whether it's in the field of refining, whether it's in the field of new business models, whether it's in the field of organizational setups and so on. And all of that gives us just, the hope that it's possible. And there is so much more to do that we need to have, those two elements in the recipe. So that's definitely
and many what gives hope is that there were not enough chairs today.
That's a good one.
So there are more people than chairs to listen about circular economy that give hope.
Thank you so much to both of you.
Thank you, Isabelle.
Thank you. So this is the end of our session, and I feel a lot of hope myself. And I am very happy that we are moving into this circular economy. I want to be myself part of the one that in 10 years from now will look into my kids' eyes and say that I've done everything I could at the time that it really matters. Thank you so much. And I have a dédicace session. I don't know exactly where, but right now, if you're interested in my book, I think it's down this way. Thank you.